Sketchy. Humans have been engaged in armed conflict since the beginning of human existence. Archaeologists often find human skeletons with blood trauma to the skulls, and arrows lodged in the rib cage. And we can be so cruel to each other sometimes. War and armed conflict used to be a shared responsibility among a community, as resources and territory were contested and fought over. And up until World War II, which is probably the last time the U.S. sent a large portion of young men and women, a large portion of the population to war, since then the burden of war has been borne by a very small percentage of the U.S. population. And it's good and bad. It's good because I'm glad we have an all-volunteer military. We don't have to send a bunch of people into the military to defend ourselves, and we can leverage our large population, expert training, unmanned systems, to leverage human abilities to keep the military force relatively small personnel-wise. The negative effect is that many soldiers come back feeling out of place, and like me, they struggle to find their next mission in life when they take off that military uniform. And for me, it was a struggle to connect with other people when I transitioned into civilian life. I was constantly doubting myself in my new corporate job. I went from a well-respected infantry officer, a leader in my battalion, to bottom of the totem pole and an entry-level sales position at a large publicly traded corporation. And I just constantly battled self-doubt and was struggling to find my path on this new career field. And I was struggling to be successful enough to support my young family. And like many other veterans, I started to feel like a burden on my friends and family. And this is the negative effect on the human psyche that war, borne by a small percentage of the population, is what it does. I didn't ask for help or communicate that I was struggling. I kind of just suffered in silence, and call it machismo, but I just decided upon myself that I'd be able to fix it myself. And I was too fearful to reach out and ask for help initially when I got out of the Army. I used to hate that version of myself. I used to reflect back on that time and that dark chapter in my life and just feel an immense sense of regret, remorse, kind of shame of who I was. But as the years have gone by, I've learned to give myself grace. You have to give yourself grace and stop being so hard on yourself. And that's what I've done. Those negative self-thoughts, those destructive habits, those bad behaviors, choosing isolation deliberately, they're all forms of self-harm, and some of the worst kinds of self-harm. Things you wouldn't even wish on your best friend. And you absolutely have to give yourself room to grow and strengthen your mind, body, and spirit. Humans are not designed to isolate themselves. We are best suited to work together and lean on each other and share in both our struggles and our successes. In the past, it wasn't actually possible to survive alone. We had to rely on each other. We had to lean on each other to survive, which was a forcing function for building community and close bonds. Now, in modern times, we have to actively seek out community. We have to make a deliberate effort to reach out and build a community where we are and keep our family tight-knit. Because theoretically, you can survive alone. Many people work remotely or commute to work alone or spend time in a singular office. So you actively have to seek out community, which is often difficult. So now I'm speaking to you, the veteran, or a person struggling with trauma or self-doubt or isolation or substance abuse, maybe not related to trauma or violence. The crucible you're going through right now in this moment, this chapter that seems way too long and it seems like the last chapter of your book sometimes, that there's no light at the end of the tunnel, I'm telling you there absolutely is. And all of these struggles that you're going through can absolutely be turned into strength. They can be turned into strengths. They can be turned into a mechanism for you to help others. And if you're a veteran, that same commitment of selfless service and you sacrificing a lot of your youth to your country, those same attributes can absolutely be redirected to positive and beneficial actions in your community. You can actively seek out ways to volunteer within your community, whether it be volunteering and helping those that are less fortunate than you, volunteering at a homeless shelter, maybe an animal shelter, maybe you're engaged in some sort of trail maintenance at your local park, cleaning up trash, taking care of brush. All of those attributes that make you who you are and that make you so important in our community, those can be redirected in a positive way. And if you feel like this chapter in your life is just way too long and it's difficult to see things looking up, I promise you, you can write a new chapter for yourself. And you can look back and reflect on what's going through your life right now, reflect on your mistakes or things you wish you'd done differently. Reflect on those with positivity of how you can behave in the future and how you can live your life in the future. And if you're feeling sad, like life is hopeless, I encourage you to run. Don't walk, run towards those that would help you, those that love you. Call your family, call your friends, call the men and women that you serve with in the military, and call a therapist. Heck, do what I did and call a crisis hotline if you feel like you can't talk to anybody. Call a crisis hotline if you need to, and start taking those baby steps towards being a better version of yourself. So for my fellow veterans, these are just a few of the state and federally funded resources that I'm aware of for veterans, but I'll drop them below. And if you know of any other ones, please feel free to add them in the comments or let me know and I'll add them. But I'm telling you, there's a bunch of resources. You just have to have the courage to reach out and ask for help.